All right, new battery in. It's missing the hold down, so I have to figure something out about that. The bolt and the hold down are just, they were just gone by the time I got the car. Airbox all back in. Plug, clamp, bolt. Yeah, pretty good. All right, she's running. All right, so I'm back from the shop after making my own battery tie down plate, and take a note of this raised up area right here. It's about a little less than 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and it's about 1/16 of an inch tall. This little piece sticking out. I'll take you down closer so you can see that. So the battery tie down steel plate was missing, and the bolt as well, so I had to guess, and I actually found a bolt. But as for the plate, I took measurements and I machined my own, which I'll have some B-roll footage of here. And now I will take you over. I have the battery sitting on the decently flat workbench, and this is the piece that I made. I just had a piece of 1/2 inch thick steel material, and I had to face it off. Well, I had to cut down to my width and length, and then I drilled a hole about 7/8 of an inch in from the bottom, because this is about where the bolt will go through this hole and into the threaded portion in the car. And then once I did that, I flipped it over and actually counterbored this section here with a 3/4 inch end mill, 1/16 of an inch deep, so that area I just showed you, it can sit down, and it's clearance there, so the rest of the piece can sit relatively flat. And then what I did is I milled off 7/16 of an inch of material all the way down, a little over 1/4 of an inch in. So I took all the material off so that when you lay this flat, you can see this is the section of the battery that the battery hold down will be clamping down on, because the posts are going to be on the opposite side. And if you look at that, it's pretty much flat except for this front section here where it's slightly kicked up, but I think that's not going to be an issue, because if we look in the car, the area in which this sits, it sits on an incline, so I think it's going to be just fine. So you can see I'm clearance there around that raised up area, and it sits, try to bring the camera in here a little bit better. There we go. So it sits in between these two tabs, and there's also a tab in the back that it kind of sits right up against. So it's really, I think, a nice fitting piece, and I'm going to try it out. And then as for the bolts, I just grabbed a few metric bolts that were laying around the shop and brought it back. So this one is a M8 8mm bolt. It's about 1 inch long, and then the hex is a 13mm. So if you have a 13mm socket, you can try that on bolts you might have laying around if you were also missing the bolt for your tie down. And then I just found it happens to just be a stainless washer. It could be any type of washer really, but that's gonna be, I think it's all gonna work good. I guess I'll throw a little Never Sees, just a dab on the end of this bolt on the threads so that it won't rust out over time. And then they will go through my through hole, and it will thread in the car, and hopefully they should bolt the battery down, so now the new battery won't be shifting all around during driving. All right, what joy there is in making a part, machining a part, and seeing that it actually fits and the hole lines up and the part sticking out for the tie down is actually going to work. But at the same time, how the heck am I supposed to get my hand down in there to start this bolt? Look at this. There's always something in the way. How do they expect me? I need tiny hands. Does anybody have tiny hands, and are they willing to lend? Because I can get about that far. And it's like, do I just drop the bolt and hope it goes in the hole, doesn't bounce around down the car and get lost? You know, a magnetic socket would be everything right now. And I think there's one, but guess where it is? Not here, at the shop. How fun is that? So we'll figure that out, but I'm glad that this part that I made seems to be working out. Okay, and I dropped the bolt, of course. So the second time I got it, was able to barely start it. Like I had to just put 2 fingers on the bolt head and just get a couple twists to get it started by hand. And I took my 13mm socket with a long 6-inch extension on the 1/4 ratchet. And would you look at that? This thing is pretty solid in here now. And the back of the battery on the bottom is butted up against the battery tray. Right down in there. So it's pretty good. It's in there nice and snug. And also it's on the side. It's towards the side of the battery tray over here. And I might have some clearance on, yeah, it's got a little bit of clearance on the right side, but she is solid. She ain't going anywhere. So happy about that. Now the next challenge is this goes underneath here over the battery, and the other piece mates to it. But now that I got the battery in, first I had just this in trying to feed the battery in, but this was in the way. But then I realized, you know, if I get it past this intake tubing, it goes, because this hose is going to be in the way. It's pretty flexible, but I don't know. It's like the way this part of the body comes directly over part of the battery just makes it super difficult to change the battery and worry about putting all these back in. So messing with that next. All right, so you start to question your sanity when working on a Volkswagen Beetle here. So I got half of the tray, and you can see I scratched it up a little bit, but I got it halfway in and it just would not curve over and go down in. Even with disconnecting my battery mount and shifting the battery as far left as possible. So I admit defeat. I'm going to take the airbox back out just so I get this stupid plastic cover in, and then get the other half in, and then get the top in, minus the red pieces, of course. And then maybe I'll be done with this. But for anyone who wants to maintain their sanity, just take this and just throw it away. And this piece as well. But I am stubborn, and this is where we're at. So let's continue. All right, so I'm not even gonna try to explain this or make sense of this, but you have to take the battery and just grab it just by the outside housing of it. There's no good way to grab it. It's heavy, and you're in this tight space. You have to take this half of the battery tray, just put it together, like grab both of them and just like finagle it in there. And then as you're trying to let go, the battery wants to tip this way, and then pinch your finger in between the tray and the battery. You're just like, you'd be surprised I'm not throwing wrenches across the garage. But it is in there. I have the battery kicked to the left off the tray a little bit so I can mess with this guy and get it started in position. And then I'm like, once I get it started, it is going to be a pain trying to start my battery tie-down piece that I made, which the old one must have come up high, possibly. But actually, you know what? And it didn't, because in the video I saw, it was just a regular plate that's down low. And then the bolt, I assume, gets fed down in there. So that's going to be fun. But at least I got this half in, and hopefully this half will go in easier, and I can put the airbox back in, and we can finally move on to putting the bumper and fenders back on. And here's the battery tie-down piece that I made. I actually threw a couple coats of paint on it, so it won't rust nearly as quickly. And I'm showing you this because the half of the battery cover I have on with the battery in the car, and before I put on the other half, I have to get this down in that gap, get it underneath this part, maybe pull it out a little bit, and then also start the bolt somehow. So yeah, I really have no idea how the best way to go about this, or to get the airbox and battery back in with this cover. And I really don't feel like pulling them out a third time just to try to figure this out, because like I said, the stock or the factory battery hold down piece was missing. So it's not like I can just drop it down in there, because this hose right in the way, and it doesn't appear that easy to take off, but we'll look into it. And for the ending of this battery tie down machining video and install. Let me show you it actually installed. So we got the battery, 3-piece battery cover plastic. It never goes, plastic never seems to go back the same way you took it apart, especially after years and multiple times of taking it apart and putting it back together. So we've got it back as best as we can, and the positive battery cable actually goes over this little section here of the plastic battery tray, the little kick out there. So below this tubing, I am trying to show you that you can, it won't focus, but it's like right there. The bolt is just peeking out. If I can find an angle, I can show you my finished install. But I dare say I may not be able to. Actually, you know what? This piece sits in there. If I could pull it out just real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay, it'll almost focus. Sorry, it won't focus, but there we go. There it is. There it is. Got it. Okay, you see it installed. You can only see half of it, but it's in a good spot. It's lined up. It's flush. It's sitting flat, and it's clamping down that front side of the battery. So thank you for watching. That is the machining of it and the sizing, and I can put the sizing down in the description as well, or you can ask me in the comments if you have to make one. But that's it. You know, sometimes I can make my own parts for certain things on cars, so that is a huge help instead of having to track them down or, you know, or buy them. So save a little money there. And Project Beetle, the project continues. So see you next time.